This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. When you visit the doctor, you probably hand over your insurance, your ID, and contact details. It's just one of the many places that has your personal info. And if any of them accidentally expose it, you could be at risk for identity theft. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second. If you become a victim, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year at lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Welcome to another Britflix.com podcast. My name's Stuart Wright, and today's guest is screenwriter Isabel Dréan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You are here to talk about querying and mentoring, how most writers approach querying the wrong way and why it doesn't work, and how mentorship has not only helped others succeed, but also made you, and therefore the listener can find out how they can become a better writer. Is that okay?
Yes.
Cool. And you will be sharing 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life.
Yeah, I'll try.
Well, look, let's start at the beginning then. Querying. What are most writers getting wrong about the way they query? What is it that you're seeing and hearing about that makes you worry for writers' success?
The querying process, I mean, if you look on the internet, every guru, everyone have very similar rules.
Mm-hmm.
Never present 2 log lines, never always talk about yourself in a way, it's usually there's a template that people use, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can't blame them because that's what they're being told. And so I've always had a lot of success in querying. And I'm always like, if I send a message, usually people respond.
Okay.
But it's the approach is that people are querying to figure out, how can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? How can you help me? I've got this. It's about getting read. And when I query, it's 2 different things. How can I help you as a producer, as a director, or whoever I'm querying?
Mm-hmm.
How can I contribute to your success? And I don't care about being read. What I'm trying to do is get a call, like a 10-minute, let's get on a call, like an introduction.
Yeah.
Let's get to know each other. Do we like each other? Are we aligned in visions? And often that call creates a connection or you realize that person's not for you or you're not for them.
Okay.
So the whole thing in querying, to me, the approach, the goal of a query is wrong. So you can't win if you're setting yourself up as, what can you do for me? Any human being, if I meet you, like the first minute that I'm talking to you, I say, can you help me? Can you do something for me? Like most people would be really put off by that. So that's why I think agents, managers, producers are put off by queries. When you switch that, and when I send a message and I go, hey, I've had success in this. I'm pretty good at what I do. How can I help you? I know that you have challenges. I know that you're trying to build a slate, make good movies, or whatever is your goal. I mean, I study the person. I know what the person is trying to do. I'm like, hey, maybe I'm a match. Maybe I could help you make that, closing a slate easier. The process of the writing of the movie being easy because I write fast and I'm easy to take notes, but trying to find a common denominator of how you can fill in their problems. Because being a producer, being a manager, being an agent is difficult. Mm-hmm. This business is difficult. So when 1,000 people send you a letter every day saying, help me, help me, help me, and one person goes, hey, I know your job is hard. How can I help you? It's a total different approach. And that's probably why I realized early on that I was getting responses when everybody's getting crickets.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't use the query in the same way. So
you're talking about cold queries here. So the person receiving it doesn't know they're getting an email.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So in that sense, then, so how do you couch "I can help you" as opposed to "Here's a log line. Do you want to read this script?"
So usually I'll go, "Hey, I know what you're doing. I know." Usually you'll know what they're working on. If they're a producer that do multiple things, you'll go, "Hey, I know you usually have a big slate. I'm doing this. I'm in the same, example. If they're writing, if they're producing holiday movies or romance, I'll go like, "Hey, we're in the same space. This is what I write. This is what I do. How can I help you close your slate?" And then this is the second biggest mistake that everyone does. And this is a salesperson, tactic.
Yeah.
Everyone says do not ever send more than one log line. Mm-hmm. So if I ask you, "Stuart, do you want coffee?" and you're not a coffee drinker, where are you going to go? You're going to go yes or no.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if I say, "Stuart, do you want coffee or tea?" Now I'm raising my chances of you saying, "Well, you're an Englishman, so you'll probably take tea," right?
No.
Right?
No, I see. I see what you mean. I see what you're saying.
Right? I have two choices.
Yeah.
Right? The chances are now you're raising your chances of someone picking. So usually I always include 2 log lines.
Yeah.
And I know this is a no-no. Everybody says never send 2 log lines. Okay, but I'm getting responses and you're not. So I must be doing something right.
Okay, that's the content of the email you're talking about. But to get someone to open an email, the subject line is doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Okay. So what are you saying there that makes it look like you're asking to help them rather than asking for help?
So the subject line is, you have to grab their attention. And another thing, so let me finish on the log line.
Sorry, go on.
Yeah. So the log line, you do 2 log lines in the same category. If I send a query for a holiday movie, I would do 2 log lines on the holiday space, right? Or at least romance. If you have a Christmas and a non-Christmas, because usually those go hand in hand. Producers that do Christmas usually do romance. Mm-hmm. So you're not sending a holiday movie and a horror film, right? They have to make sense for that producer.
Got you.
So 2 log lines. Now, for the subject line, you have to grab their attention. And most of the time I see writers, they're like, "Oh, I'm getting crickets. I sent 100 queries and got nothing." And I'm like, well, if you didn't get anything after 10, that should have been an indication that it's not working. Whatever you're doing is not working.
Sure. Yeah.
So I go, okay, so did they open the email? And people go, "I don't know." So the second mistake, one of the mistakes that people make when they're querying is that they're not tracking. When you do email marketing, which is the email querying is an email marketing technique. There is no one in email marketing, in e-marketing, that don't track their emails. No one does that. Only screenwriters, I think, that send emails without any form of tracking. So when you do email marketing, you have to track your email. You have to do A/B testing. You test one subject line, another subject line, and you see after 10 or 15, which one is open.
Okay.
And if you don't get a 50% or 30% would be the lowest opening rate, then you don't even know if your emails are opened at all. Maybe they're not even rejecting your thing. Maybe the email just are left unopened. Right? So finding the right subject line is very important. And so you have to test that. Of course, for me, it's easy now because I have 5 movies made in 18 months. So that's my tagline. So when I send an email, I write Canadian writer with 5 movies produced in 18 months. My rate of open emails is like 95, because of course, most people don't have that.
Yeah.
But I have writers. I've just done a query accelerator with writers that had no credits. And with working the subject line by tracking, we were able to, for each one, to find the thing that made people open the email. Rom-coms with 2 market-ready scripts, like you use keywords that are going to attract attention. Sometimes it can be funny. I have a writer who wrote a holiday movie with a kind of a Dolly Parton character. It's based on, her subject line is, "Do you love Dolly as much as I do?" And that subject line is through the roof. People open it because we know for a fact that I would say 98% of the people love Dolly Parton. Even if they don't like their music, they'll love her. So they'll be, and also it's funny, right? So it's like, oh, what is this email? Do I love Dolly Parton? And she doesn't say Parton, she just says Dolly, right? Do you love Dolly as much as I do? And people click, people open it.
Okay.
You have to play with the subject, the ideas that you have, and try to and you test. And you test, but you don't send 100 queries. You send 5 and you check. And if they don't open, you have to do something else. And to be honest, I don't use AI for writing, but to come up with a subject email, AI is brilliant. You say, this is my log lines. This is what this is me. Give me high conversion, open email rate. And it will, if you prompt it right, it will give you good subject. So then you get a tracking email software like MailSuit or something. I think they changed the name now. I forget. Or maybe that MailSuit is the new name. But anyway, you pay $10. You pay $10 a month to track, to know if they're actually opening. So that's number one, right? Are they opening it? Because most of the time, probably they're not opening because your subject line is bad.
Yeah.
So once we know they open, then it's the other problem. So always, how can I help you? And don't write a huge paragraph. I'm talking about like 2 lines. You do this, I do this. How can I help? This is what I have. I never ask to be read in a query ever. I don't say, do you want to read my script? Nobody wants to read your script. That is the reality. No one wants to read your script. Really. Even your friends don't.
Don't say it so. Don't say it so.
No one wants to read your script. Let me repeat that. And if you understand that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, once you understand it, it's very strange because I often, I never push people to read my script. And you wouldn't believe how many times people say, hey, please send me your work. I want to read you. All the time. But it's because I'm very guarded. I only share my scripts with the people that I want to work with. And so I keep that mystery. And when people feel that it's something that almost like a privilege, then they really want it. It's like that precious thing that you sell, it's those are all sales technique, by the way.
Yeah. They sound like it.
Something and you're like, oh, pick me. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a pick me attitude, and that is a lot of the energy that writers come across.
Okay. So just to sum up, we want emails that are sort of offering, not asking. We want a subject line that is catchy and market tested. So your recommendation is to invest in some email tracking, and don't just do tens and tens of email queries. Work and refine based on the hit rate of what your emails are getting opened, and I guess as well with any responses you get, you'll get a picture. So would that seem like a fairly good tactical approach to getting more cold emails read and responded to?
Yeah, and I'm not done.
Oh, sorry, go on.
So not done. So then you do the two query. You put two log lines, and you can say something like, "This is what I have right now."
Yeah.
This is what I have available right now too. And I even go further where I even mention something I'm working on that's almost ready, but and they say, "Oh, I'm also, like a tease." I just tease, like if it's a high concept or something. And I tease something maybe a little different than the other three, but that could also be a match. But, that might be pushing it, but I push the envelope. And sometimes I get three read requests in one email.
Wow.
So I'll do that. And then, so how you close, right? Everybody's like, the two things that I see. Please let me know if you want to read any of this. Thank you for your time and consideration. First of all, that feels like, oh my God, you're so much above me. You have to treat these people like they are your colleagues. You're at the same level. We're colleagues. I'm helping you. You can help me. I can help you. So the way we close the email, we never asked to be read. Said, I would really love to find out what you're working on, how, what you're doing right now, so I can understand what you do, so I can help, I can align what I do with you. So like a really quick message and say, would you mind, I would love to get on a call, a 10-minute call next week. What does your schedule look like? I don't ask to be read. I ask for a call. Do I get a call all the time? No. But I've realized very early on that people don't usually say no 2 times in a row. Like, it's really hard for human beings to say no. Like, to reject people is hard, right?
Okay.
So people say, "Oh, do you want to get on a call?" No, but send me your script. This is how it's always like that. So if you don't ask to be read, they'll go, or send me a 1-pager. And so also in my emails, when I query, I put the log line, and I always put download one sheet with a link to a drive. So I don't attach anything to the email. But if they're curious, they can download the 1-pager. They can read the 1-pager from there. And of course, I track those links. So I know how many people, I know who's watched, who's read it. So I can track, I know exactly what they're doing. If they download the 1-pager, I know. I'm like, okay, that means that my log line is working.
Got you, yeah.
If they open the email, they read your log line, and no one clicks on the one sheet, you know your log line is not working. Change the log line. Play up with it. So test it. So there's a lot of ways here that you can learn if you're doing it right. When you go blind, you don't track anything, then you don't know. Is it your subject line? Is it your log line? Is it the way you present yourself? So if they start clicking on the one sheet, then you know your log line is working. And usually if they click on the 1-pager and you're a good writer, they'll see what you're doing. You're in the same space, right? You're targeting people that are working in the same space as you. Don't just go wide and randomly query people just to query people. I've seen people say, "Oh, I've queried 1,000 people and I never got anything." Well, obviously, if you queried 1,000, you're doing it wrong, because obviously you could have known this within 10 emails.
Yeah.
I just told you in 10 emails what you're doing.
Well, brilliant. Well, look, thank you for sharing that about query emails. Let us move swiftly into how mentorship can help a writer become better and succeed. What has mentoring done for you? So we can sort of use that to reflect on why writers might use it.
Well, I mean, for me, like for the query, right? When I was like, I don't understand. I'm getting responses. What is everybody doing? Like, because I just do my thing, like, I guess I'm more of a, I'm very good at selling or like presenting like the marketing aspect or the email, e-marketing. I was an entrepreneur for 20 years before, so I understand the business side of things.
Yeah.
So when I started realizing people weren't getting read, people were, and then I had my 5 movies made in over an 18-month period. I started realizing like, what am I doing different, and trying to teach others to do what I'm doing, because I write really fast and I'm able to do 3-4 scripts a year, which before I was doing 1. So I created a process, and people were asking me. So I started teaching. At first I really didn't want to. And then I started doing it. And then I realized what everybody was doing wrong. Like the difference between what I was doing and when you start seeing a patterns, like, oh my God, everybody's doing it that way and you're doing it this way. And that's why people are not getting the results. And then you see all this, like pretty much in writing, it's always the same problems. And so you start seeing some of the problems that, maybe you can identify things that you're doing like them. But you see it a lot easier when it's not you. And so by helping others, clarifying their ideas, like, I started doing boot camps. And the boot camp, the first one to the one I'm doing now, is completely different because I was like, I started finding structure in the way to help them get better scripts, better ideas. And of course, now I use these techniques for myself.
Okay. So what would you say for writers that you might mentor or that might be looking for a mentor? What makes a writer good as a good mentee? What does a writer need to be prepared to do to get the best out of mentoring?
Well, for the mentees, I think it's being open, open to different ways. Because the way that I approach things is always different than what everything you've heard, or like sometimes I read, because I'm self-taught. I don't read screenwriting books. I don't follow. I do it my way, and my way seems to be working. So often when people come, they've read tons of books and they've had many mentors, but it's not working, obviously. And so it's to be open to new ways. And if you're going to hire a mentor, and if you're going to be in classes, to at least give a chance to see, go through the process and see if that works for you. And be open to, hearing things that you may not want to hear. Often I do coverage, and it's always, I mostly advise page one rewrite. Nobody wants to hear page 1 rewrite. No one wants to hear page 1 rewrite, but it's often the only solution to save the script. Okay.
So that sounds like what you're saying is you offer mentoring services, you offer other services. Do you want to sort of reel off what it is, and we'll put links in the show notes as to what they can do when they reach out to you. So what can, as well as being a screenwriter, what is it you offer? Sorry.
Well, I teach people how to write Christmas movies, rom-coms in 21 days. I mean, and 21 days is figurative, it changes for everyone. I write them in a week, but if I write how to write a script in 7 days, people will think I'm nuts. So, I mean, it's not accessible for everyone, but I think if you follow a process, people should be able to write, a script, a draft in 1 month.
Yeah. 21
days is just sounds better. No. but you can actually do it. I mean, I do 6-7 days. I mean, I've done it in 2 days. So, but there's a process. So I do that. I teach now how to sell a script without a rep. I do career strategy. That's my strength. That's the thing that I love the most, because I find that even good writers, from the query, the way that they pitch themselves, the desperation all over them, the networking, how to approach people, how to envision, how to up-level your career. So that is some things I do, give notes on scripts. And I do boot camps where I take people through a process to write the script. Now I'm teaching vertical series, how to write vertical series, and I'm doing an incubator. So I'm doing, because now, I mean, in a year, everyone's going to be doing vertical series. Amazon and Netflix are already testing them in Asia. So, we're about to go through a tsunami of verticals, and it's the Wild West right now. So, but I think the people that are going to get in early are going to benefit a lot, because it pays the bills and it gives you, there's no gatekeepers in this now, right? Okay. It's kind of wild. So it's a great opportunity that writers have.
And where can people find you online then to get, if they wanted to approach you for any of these services or advice?
So 2 ways. My personal website, IsabelDréan.com, and OneDayScreenplay.com. All my programs.
Fantastic. Well, look, I'll put them in the show notes, and we shall move swiftly along into 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Cool. Right then. The rules are simple. Isabel has given me 3 movies. I'm going to do them in the order that Isabel gave them to me. I'll do a brief introduction about it, sort of hinting at what the film is, and then announce the film. And then the clock will be running for 5 minutes. And when the 5 minutes are up, we will hear this sound. And you can hear that at your end okay, Isabel?
Yes.
Superb. Okay. Without further ado, your first choice holds the record for the most female acting Oscar nominations in a single movie with 4. The star of the movie fell in love with her co-host Gary Merrill during the shoot, got married a few weeks later, and adopted a baby girl that they named Margot. Unfortunately, there was no love lost between the lead and her co-star Celeste Holm. Celeste said on the first day of shooting, I walked on set and on the first day said, "Good morning." And do you know what her reply was? She said, "Oh shit, good manners." I never spoke to her again. Correspondingly, this mysterious star that I'm talking about said that she had a very happy experience on this movie, but added the only bitch in the cast was Celeste. I'm talking about 1950s Bette Davis starer about an aging Broadway star and her circle of theatre friends all about Eve. Tell me, Isabel, how did this film have an impact on you, and what are its fond memories for you?
So this movie, I watched one night when I was 12 years old. Okay. And my mom was, I'm not sure where she was, but it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I didn't know anything about this movie, but I was, as a child, fascinated with old Hollywood and loved these old movies. And this movie came on and I started watching, and I remember it was a school night, so I was afraid of being caught. And I was riveted because, all my life, since I was like the age of 3, I wanted to be an actress. And I mean, I had never seen anything like this in terms of women acting, the characters. And I'm a huge, huge fan of Bette Davis. And I was just, there was nothing, this perfection, the dialogue, and the funny thing is that I watched it in French because I didn't even speak English at the time. So I watched the dub version.
Oh, wow.
But, yeah. So when you don't speak English, you don't see, I think I would be probably appalled now to watch this in the dubbed version. But I think the woman who did Bette Davis was, the dubbers, they did all the movies for each actors, their whole life. So they were like real proper actors. And I watched it, and I remember, I think of all my childhood, I have never been more enthralled with the movie. I think it was just the fact that I was afraid of being caught. It was like the movie ended, it was like 1:30 in the morning, and I just felt like I watched like a treasure, like something so precious, and I couldn't tell. But, I think this was the moment where I was like, oh, I have to go into theater. I want to do what Bette Davis does. And having amazing female roles like that, like seeing women, I mean, obviously being terrible, but I thought like, oh, that must be like so fun, like to be able to play that. And so it definitely influenced my choices in going into theater, later on. And,
oh, really?
Yes, absolutely. And I had a theater company when I was 23 in New York. And, I can always go back to that moment where I saw Bette Davis in that movie, because it's just a masterpiece. And Anne Baxter and the back and forth. And there's even like a cameo by Marilyn Monroe, which I was obsessed with. So, I just adore this movie. I don't know.
It's a fascinating choice for something that's about the sort of cynicism about the industry, that became your kind of the hook that got you in.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I was like, oh, this is terrible. I want to be part of it. But I think at 12 years old, it probably just went over my head.
And when you look at it now then, and obviously you're watching it in the language it was made in, how does it look now compared to, how do you see it with today's eyes compared to your 12-year-old eyes?
I mean, as a screenwriter, there is no better line in any movies than when she goes down the stairs and goes, fasten your seatbelt. It's going to be a bumpy night. Oh my God. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant writing and the timing.
Oh, there's our first bell. How was that, Isabel? Was that okay for you?
That was good.
Fantastic.
Can I talk for 5 minutes? I never.
It's easily done. Right then, for your next one, Gary Oldman said in 2014 that he always tells students who want to be writers or directors that first on their list should be this film, because in terms of camera, lighting, cinematography, composition, production design, costume, storytelling, writing, and acting, it's flawless. It's a masterclass in filmmaking, he said. Though it claims to be based on the novel by Mario Puzo, only the scenes with the young Vito Corleone have any basis in the book. Only one chapter is devoted to his childhood. The Las Vegas plot is unique to the film. I'm talking about Francis Ford Coppola's sequel to The Godfather Part 2, one of the rare instances where the world has agreed that the sequel is better than the first one. So tell us, why is this film had such an impact on you, and what fond memories does it hold for you?
So I have to say that I just watched both of them with my 16-year-old daughter last week, actually.
Oh, amazing.
And all my life I thought, The Godfather 2 is I had this impression that it was better than The Godfather Part 1. Now watching them as an adult, I don't think that. I think Part 1 is better. But I picked Part 2 because Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, it's just, and I know why this had more impact on me. I was born in the 70s, so I grew up with these movies.
Yeah.
I watched them very young, and I watched them over again. And as I said earlier, I was really dead set on becoming an actress when I was younger. And I was a fan of reading all biographies, all the books. We couldn't look at stuff online. So I would go into, and funny enough, I had I created these cards where I would transcribe all the actors and directors with their biography in the front of these huge index cards. And in the back, I would take the books and transcribe this filmography. And I had boxes I had my own personal IMDb, especially I was obsessed with movies, and people would argue with me because I was really good with remembering like dates and stuff. And then people would argue with me and I would be like, no, wait, I have my cards. So I became obsessed with Hollywood and all these actors. And suddenly I started hearing about the Actors Studio.
Yeah.
And the Actors Studio with Lee Strasberg, and also Godfather Part 2 has Lee Strasberg as the villain. And I was obsessed with the Actors Studio, Lee Strasberg. And when I was in my early 20s, from Montreal, it's very difficult to move to New York City. I know a lot of people in the States, it's a very easy thing to do, to come and just move to New York. But when you're from Canada, it's a much more difficult, first of all, the money exchange and stuff. So it became my dream to move to New York and go and study at the Lee Strasberg Institute, and made that happen. In 1993, I moved to New York on my birthday.
Wow!
And I studied at the Lee Strasberg Institute for almost 2 years, and living, what I thought was stepping in the footstep of my heroes, and I think most of them are in The Godfather Part 2. And just so I studied method acting. I know now method acting is getting a bad rap, but, just watching them and feeling like they are these characters. And it's just the best acting you could ever see on the screen. And of course, the writing and the cinematography is just incredible. And anybody who watches this movie, you want to make movies, for me, it was like, I want to make movies. And I always thought, okay, I'm going to be an actress. And when I'm in my 40s, I'll direct, and I actually have a card when I was 18 years old. I wrote 40 years old, become director and producer. Wow. And it's weird because when I was 40 is when exactly I became a director and a producer. So, yes. Yeah, so I would say yes.
Well, there's our 5 minutes up. That was brilliant. I do agree with you. I think I recently rewatched The Godfather for the 4K restoration. They showed it at my cinema, and I then watched Godfather Part 2 straight after. And I would concur that I think The Godfather's, because The Godfather's the introduction to the world, as it were, and obviously the choice that Al Pacino's character has to make in terms of where he starts and where he ends is much more satisfying. I get the intricacies of the backwards and forwards in time in the second one, but I think the first one, I'm in agreement with you, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the Part 2 is not as good as the beginning of Part 1. That whole thing in Lake Tahoe.
Oh, the wedding! The whole wedding thing is just a masterclass in how to introduce characters. I mean, it's got everything. But that's for another day. We are now on to your third choice, and that is for your third choice and final choice. It took 25 days to shoot and is considered culturally, historically, and aesthetically significant by the US Library of Congress, and was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2017. There's a limited edition DVD that allows you to watch the movie in chronological order of the events in the film. The medical condition experienced by the protagonist is a real condition called anterograde amnesia, the inability to form new memories after a damage to the hippocampus. In a quirk of copyright, the screenplay is considered original rather than adapted because the original story by the director's brother wasn't published until after the film was completed. I'm talking about Christopher Nolan's Memento. So tell us, where does this fit in terms of your film watching life, and why does it have impact, and what of its fond memories?
So Memento, that question that people always ask, like, what movie that exists would you have wanted to create,
Yeah.
And for me, there's no other choice than Memento. Like if I could, have a magic wand and say, I take this movie and this is mine, that would be the one.
Right. Okay.
And I'm not, I like Christopher Nolan's films, but to me, that will never be a better one. It is very raw. You can tell like it's a lower budget movie. It's somebody that made a perfect movie, in my opinion, with very little resource. Now, of course, now he has all the resources in the world. And sometimes in the restraint. So I remember seeing this film, and I love mind-binding movies, like trying to, that makes you work. Movies that make you. And I just thought, like, oh my, like it's just the best use of the forward, the backwards, the black and white. There's so many things in there. And I'm very successful writing Christmas movies, but I didn't pick Christmas or romance. It picked me.
Okay.
A producer coached me to write those. I'm a psychological thriller writer. That is there's nothing I love more than psychological thriller, psychological horror, anything that's psychological. I just love, because it's like, when a movie is smarter than the audience and, plays with your mind and takes you in places and you don't know where to go. I personally think that is the hardest thing to do. It's harder and harder because the audience is becoming, I've seen everything. So it's hard, it's harder to trick people because they've seen, Alfred Hitchcock used to trick people, but I don't think he could trick people the way he did if he had today's audience. Like, we have a challenge now that all these masters have come before us. But with Memento, from having oh shoot, I forget his name now. Oh my God, the lead. What's his name?
Oh, Guy Pearce.
Yes, Guy Pearce, and I'm blanking on all the names, but all these Australian actors, right? They're all Australians, and they just make, not having big stars, not having Hollywood stars, I think makes it so feel more real, more raw. And also having the collaboration with his brother, I always, I don't have siblings, but I always dreamed of having this collaboration with one person where you make movies with someone. I had the chance for a little bit with my ex-partner to create project, but that is either a spouse or a sibling. I envy that, that collaborative, imagine, they make each other better.
Yeah. Like a collective mind.
Yes. It's just so. Yeah, I guess that the Memento is something to look, strive for, something that I aspire to. If I can make a movie.
Finish your thought. Go on. If you could make a movie.
If I could make a movie that, came anywhere close to Memento, I would be okay, I've done it. I've made it. And until then I have to, keep aspiring.
I think it's a good target to aim for. It's a fantastic movie. I remember seeing it at the Odeon on Tottenham Court Road in central London. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon, and it was one of those in the kind of, I guess, because 2000 is kind of is obviously just the borderline of the internet, so we weren't bombarded with information, and we knew there was this exciting British director, but it was on at the main cinema, which was always, even back then was still a rare treat. So seeing him, and then going to see a film where it's one of those films where I wish I could wipe my brain and watch it for the first time again. But in saying that, there is a pleasure in watching it, knowing what the trick is. So, it's a bit like when you rewatch Sixth Sense. When you rewatch Sixth Sense, you can see the ghosts not being real. But when you watch it the first time, you think it's all real. So, Well, thank you for sharing that memory of Memento. That was really interesting.
I have to say, I think Memento also 2000. I think the cinema changed after that. Like if you look 2000, like it's almost like I think Memento wraps like the 90s. It feels more like a 90s movies. And after that, it kind of...
Well, if you think 1999, what's it called? George Lucas does Phantom Menace, which is the first piece of digital cinema that basically foists digital cinema on all of cinemas. So cinemas literally update their technology from that point onwards because they had to, or else they couldn't show the new Star Wars movie. So that was always... And then, 2002, is it? We get the first 28 Days Later, which is shot on like digital video. So there was this move away from traditional film as a medium to shoot on. Although people obviously still do. But yeah, I think you're right. The technology was beginning to be a shift in sand in terms of what films are, how we consume films. But, it was early days then. We didn't know. I never quite imagined Lawrence of Arabia would be on a phone, but then that's a whole other challenge.
It's an interesting thing because I've been thinking about that. Why even I don't feel like connect with movies as much as I do. And I had this thought this week, is it because it's not shot on film that we don't connect with movies the way we used to? I wonder if it's the digital.
I think it's more about abundance. I think 25 years ago, you couldn't just go home and watch what you want unless you owned it. Whereas we just pay a small subscription and we have access to thousands of things. So what's on at the cinema is just a choice between what's on the cinema and what I can watch at home. And that didn't...
But they're good. They're not as good.
Well,
I don't have...
Well, there are, but they're harder to... The good ones are harder to find because of the way the mainstream dominates. Mainstream always dominates. So, and especially when you think of algorithms, I think that they're going to push all the smaller films out of the way. Whereas if you could have an algorithm which is, I'm interested in smaller films which have got ambition, then the Mementos would pop out of all that. But, they only surface when that director gets their next kick on. So, for example, I don't know, Ty West made a couple of brilliant horror films before X, Pearl and Maxine came along. But most people only know him for X, Pearl and Maxine because of the... So, I think there's still space for it, but it's different. And that's the thing. It's not the same. Well, look, thank you for sharing 3 films that have impacted everything in your adult life. That was fun. And thank you for enlightening us on email queries and the power of mentoring. Remind people then, Isabel, how can people find you online?
Yes, IsabelDréan.com, ISABELDREAN.com, and 21dayscreenplay.com. And everywhere on social media at Isabel Dréan. I pretty much think I'm the only one. So.
Okay. Well, look, it just gives me to say thank you very much for giving us your time on the Britflix podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey there, Hugh from Poderation here, and if you like today's show, why not have a listen to the All Things Nintendo podcast? Hosted by Brian Shea, former director and Game Informer and lifelong games journalist, the show explores the ins and outs of gaming's oldest company and one of its biggest, featuring interviews, featuring reviews, featuring everything you want to know about the world of Nintendo. If you'd like to learn more, check out our website at poderation.com.